Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's again time for another installment in our Internet Forum series of lectures. I'm sorry we are a little bit late today. The reason was that there was another lecture in this room and we kind of get to setting up the lecture a little bit late because of that. We are sorry. Today we will be hearing talks from Sami, Masala and Markku, Alanko from Posti and Joni, Ojamäki from Solita. And I guess without any further ado, we'll start.
Okay, thank you. And welcome also from my side. My name is Markku, Alanko, and as introduced, I come from Posti. And today we have split this presentation into three parts, where I try to build this kind of a little frame for you about this whole concept of big data, why it is still important, why everyone should be aware of what it is, what it isn't, and then I'll move the microphone to Sami, who will maybe put it into more concrete perspectives with some examples from Posti's everyday life and maybe his own as well, and then finally shift it over to Joni, who will then be able to really highlight today from the service provider's point of view how this large concept can be opened up with the help of experts. So personally, I come from Posti's ICT. I have responsibility in our analytics and reporting, and try to support all our business units equally in the data-driven transformation for our company. We have lots of interesting projects ongoing and a lot of different teams to support. So it's an interesting ride. To the concept of big data in general. This is something that has been talked for a while with this title. It's still relevant. It's 2016 and we are still here in auditoriums talking about big data. And well, there's a lot of good reasons behind that. However, in the recent years, there have been other concepts coming into the same space. We talk about Internet of Things. Both of these concepts come from Silicon Valley in the 2009, 2011, that region, starting to become mainstream topics. First one, generalizing on data in maybe coming from Internet sources and so forth. And then Internet of Things moving more into the realm of smart devices, little gadgets, maybe also on the consumer side. And then, of course, after these kind of concepts that no one owned, all the big players needed to jump into the game, and one of them was, of course, Cisco. Started talking about Internet of Everything, which is basically, of course, some sort of a combination of the previous two. Then on the other side of the ocean, German government released quite a lot of studies and this kind of frameworks about pretty much the same thing, industrial point of view of accessing more data, processing more data, and getting good results out of that under the title of Industry 4.0. After that, General Electric, basically, I guess they realized that this is something that we need to take back to the other side let's talk about industrial internet. It's again something in the same realm, more focusing on the companies, to the networking between companies and all the data traffic standards between those. Then came Accenture with industrial Internet of Things, which is already, it's sort of my personal favorite. Let's just combine all of these. I hope this is pretty much the end of the end of the innovation on the terminology. But today, especially in Finland, all these conveniently fall under the topic of digitalization. Well, you all, when reading all sorts of sources, you bump into these every day, and that's maybe adding to the confusion. It's sparking the interest, but at the same time confusing people quite a lot. And if we look at just Google search trends, we can see these big data, Internet of Things, still trending upwards. And if we compare it to the previous mega trend that really changed, had a big impact in the ICT industry in general, cloud computing, we see that's sort of coming down on the trend, which maybe just explains that this kind of general topic has been removed from the daily discussions, and now we're talking about certain services and companies and something more concrete in the cloud computing area. This is something often referred to, Gartner's hype cycle of emerging technologies. This is from this year, 2016. And interesting part here is that there's no big data, there's no Internet of Things anymore on this slide. Big data was removed on 2015 slide, and Internet of Things was removed this year. Until that, they were still on the top of the hype cycle. So maybe Gartner's thinking is that these are already mainstream for everyone, so they don't need to stay in the emerging technologies chart. I would like to sort of conclude this confusion into this one slide, where in the end it's all about data, and especially how to use it. How do you get advantage out of data? So, approaching the same topic from another angle, just out of curiosity, who has never heard about 3 V's in the context of big data? Who has heard about 3 V's? Hands up. Okay, almost everyone. Who's heard of more than 3 V's in the context of big data? Well, this is really an old framework. It's already from 2004 or 5, and it has been established before the concept of big data has been coined. So, but I think this is still pretty valid for sort of just pinpointing that where do we actually, when do we enter the realm of big data? And the first one, it's pretty obvious, especially when you translate it to, let's say, Finnish and probably other languages as well. This first one, the volume, gets a little bit too much attention. Big is something large by definition, and at least in my personal translator. But volume is only one angle where things get complicated in processing of data. And sometimes volume is not really a problem. We have a lot of good computing power, and it's getting cheaper every day. So if we have quality data, structured, well-defined data, we can process like amazing volumes of data with modern computers. But more challenges come up when we move to these other V's. Velocity is it's basically the need to get something out of that data in a short time window. Talking about perishing data assets, concepts that data loses its value when time passes. So you really need to be able to react near real time to be competitive, to get the competitive edge against your competitors. And that brings the whole computing framework into another realm of challenges. And then finally there's variety, which is of course one really relevant angle when looking at your challenges with data. And this is basically just the mere fact that that we have data coming from so many sources in so many formats, in like varying quality and so forth. So we need to build computing structures, frameworks to really tackle those issues, to be able to understand the quality of data that we have and what kind of data sets we can join together and what will be the consequences on those. Many vendors have come up with, let's say all of the vendors have come up with at least the fourth V, but in these kind of general presentations it's difficult to like pick which one you would like to highlight. IBM talks about veracity, sort of the trustworthiness of data. Microsoft talks about value and so forth. These are all kind of interesting, but it's more like stealing the spotlight from this original definition. So this, if let's say this is the definition that everyone should know when talking about big data. When thinking about your own data challenges, this is a good framework, especially when you combine it to this one. This is another definition. I think it can be derived from Wikipedia or something like that, but basically meaning that we're moving into the realm of big data when we cannot extract value out of our data with the traditional computing systems or we haven't been able to do that with our past infrastructure the last time we checked. So this is a good framework, also reminding us that our capabilities, technical capabilities, are changing rapidly. With often talked about, often referred concept Moore's law, we get double the computing power and storage space, something in roughly every 18 months. So we should constantly review our current setup. That do we actually have, how much computing, how much storage can we get per a certain amount of money that we can use? And can we now maybe tackle some challenges that we couldn't previously because it was too expensive or the equipment wasn't there? Then with this kind of massive hype that's been it has been surrounding this concept of big data and the other concepts that I just introduced, there's naturally quite a lot of new development in the software industry as well. So there's quite a lot of very interesting high-end software projects, both open source and commercial, that really focus on breaking these kind of barriers of computing power. And I would say that there's not that much new from science point of view or this kind of innovation point of view, but there's more focus on certain use cases, certain different approaches. So depending on your data set, your data quality, your data structuring, and the sources of data, there's different kinds of software components that you should be looking at. And once they have been more built for certain narrow use cases, they can bring more power into the game. And perhaps the most important change, I would say, is this emergence of cloud computing. It opens up the game completely. The competition opens up to the small companies as well. Where in the past, if you would really want to exercise some sort of high-performance computing, you would need to invest quite a lot of money up front to be able to do that. And that gave a really unfair advantage to some of the larger corporations and sort of kept the innovation within data in the hands of the few. But now with cloud computing, the thinking has changed completely. That if you have good ideas and a couple of pairs of hands, you can start up massive computing platforms in a matter of days or hours, and also only pay for the amount of usage, the amount you use it, and that's it's leveling the field quite a lot, and I think that's also something it's really interesting in when you look at the situation from the point of view how fast our innovation can move forward. We now can expect anyone to basically, with a good idea, to come up with something which can reach global audiences in a very fast pace. Another framework maybe to add the third dimension into this concept is to look at the data sources. So these internal data sources are the typical starting points for many, especially many companies. That's where we're most familiar, and we like to dig deeper, and these are the areas where we have the competencies. I would say that in Posti we are in the size of our company is that large and so versatile that we do come up with some sort of big data challenges within this internal data. Also some transaction-heavy companies like operators, finance institutions, they will struggle sometimes with their internal data. But of course, for the smaller companies, this is hardly ever a big data challenge. It can be other data challenges naturally, but not something that you really need to harness the cloud power or find new big data software to track those issues and so forth. But then when we move, we start looking outside of our own company. We look at the internet sources, digital reality around us. This is the mobile devices, social media, all sorts of this kind of data that can be mined from the, let's say, internet and all the connected devices. And this brings quite a lot of more data along all those three V's into our hands, and it opens up the possibilities, but it also brings in the challenges in really getting value out of that data. Then coming from the digital reality, we move to the physical reality. This explodes the things into another level. Talking about Internet of Things, all the connected devices, both in consumer market and in, let's say, industry, businesses, heavy machinery. All of them generate massive amounts of somewhat structured data, but still in such a pace that we will find a whole new bunch of problems in trying to extract the information, extract the value, and write decisions out of that sensor data. There's also an amazing amount of innovation in this area when we talk about smart homes, smart cities, personal healthcare, self-monitoring, concepts like this. It's all sort of coming down into this physical reality and measuring it with sensor technology. And again, a lot of possibilities, but also plenty of new challenges. Looking at these previous ones, this is another angle. It's the data market, basically. External data sets that can be found from more and more sources, from more and more players. This is something, on the other hand, there's an open data movement. A lot of data is being opened. In Finland, all the government collected data is being opened by law if there's no legal limits into that. On the other hand, new players, new data market, data merchants are emerging on the market. So there's interesting data sets that you can purchase or lease or trade with your partners, and again enrich your own data, the data that you can collect, the data that comes from your sort of sensor footprint and so forth. And then naturally, there's quite a lot of data that we don't collect at the moment. We haven't really thought about it, or we haven't yet realized that there's value. Just measuring something that no one else has ever measured, if it has enough reach, if you sort of commercialize it in a new proper way, you may reach completely new markets. You may gain advantage that it's really difficult to sort of catch up and so forth. But in the end, if you look at all these sources, naturally combining data from all of these brings you closer and closer to these big data challenges, where you need to really focus on data quality, data purification, calculation power, reaction speed, and so forth. Maybe then it's just something like this. There's a flood of data, but why? And leading up to maybe Sami's presentation as well, here's one pretty good quote on decision making, that we need to rethink this everyday work, everyday decision making in a way that there's no seniors, there's no executives who make all the decisions, and the rest of us are just following up on our daily work. It's more like when we're moving into data-driven mindset and data-driven organizations, everyone is making decisions constantly, and especially when you make them, you need to have data to support your decisions. So it's decision making is happening on all the levels, and that's where you actually cash in on all those investments on the data. In general, data as itself has not that much value. It's more like an inconvenience. It creates cost to store it and to sort of maintain it. But typically the value can be found from just optimizing the operational excellence, constantly optimizing your volume businesses. That's where Posti has a long traditions, for example. We are operating in a highly volume-centric business, so every little percentage point that we can squeeze into our benefit, it's easily generated or turns into a lot of money. Then the data capitalization, like mentioned on the other slide, there's a lot of market space, a lot of new room for players who know how to sort of commercialize certain data sets and find the proper customers. And then on the third, this is probably something that you can see in the startup world is this kind of value chain disruption, that we can see a lot of global success stories that basically have taken over some business just by handling the data better than anyone else before. There's Airbnb, there's Uber, these large corporations coming up from basically not having any assets themselves, but just finding the data or organizing the data so that the service levels go up and then the service experience, customer experience goes up, so that they will actually take a major share of that value chain. Well, I'll basically end this kind of a troubling recruitment announcement that everyone is really looking for these kind of superheroes called data scientists, especially people who have good skills on all of those realms that are on this slide. So you can find people from these universities that have really strong mathematical skills and they might be good with algorithms and so forth. But at the same time, you would need these people to be able to have this kind of presentation skills to go to the boards and charm the customers and really formulate the science in layman terms, and also implement these in technical terms, like develop something fast and so that it tempts the customers. But as we have all probably seen in the past, these guys end up in the hands of Google and such pretty fast. So there's no point in trying to compete for these kind of unicorns. Maybe the typical approach today would be to form really well united teams of experts from these different realms and give them freedom to sort of find their own roles and then contribute as a unit instead of trying to squeeze everything into one person. But I hope this framework or these frameworks, different dimensions that I presented, help you sort of focus today on or help you think about the coming cases, and also Sami's and Joni's talks in this sort of from the right angle. So I'll shift over to Sami now. Thanks.
And Markku, thank you. You emptied the whole bank, so there's a lot of left. Because you didn't say anything, the Posti's right to be here is one thing that I like to mention, that we are talking about a lot of the digital and physical blur working in the border of physical and digital world. And in the Posti's case, and my opinion is Posti is one of the most interesting places to work currently, because there is a lot of physical stuff that have to collect somewhere. And at the same time, the huge flow of e-com and physical stuff collect a huge amount of data flow. And being a so-called hub between those two, physical and digital flow, is one of the interesting possibility in actually the current world and the world of big data. But to be honest, I actually hate the word big, because it's still, as Markku, you said, it's all about data. The cars are bigger, The plates are bigger, the burgers are bigger, everything is bigger. Now we have even bigger households than ever. And we don't talking about big homes, big cars. We have Big Mac, yes, Big King, yes, but don't talk about big plates. And actually, people are bigger than ever. And we don't talk about big people. And I think it's a little bit insulting to talk about big people. But yes, everything is bigger. So why on earth we have that kind of term about big data? Yes, there is a huge amount of data, but still it's data. But my point of view, and I think this is one of my favorite topic. Okay, what Posti do with big data? Yes, we do a lot. And actually we collect a lot of big data. We travel every single door or visit every single door in Finland every single day. Maybe twice a day, maybe third time a day. We drive through every single street kilometers here in Finland. We collect frost damage information to agency of traffic. We collect certain a traffic data also. We have a lot of interested in collecting data when our workforce is out of the field, and we have possibility to that. And that's why I think that Posti really have the right to be on this stand today. But the data and the big data. This is my point of view of big data, and I would like to say what big data is not. And most of you are, I think, is a little bit elder than the first year students, but yes, when we are working somewhere, and I think the younger are the startup entrepreneurs, but yes, I think this is the one of the most important thing and related on the startup mentality. Big data is not this kind of PowerPoint slides. Many larger enterprise make that mistake. When you have to do something related on big data, you start working with PowerPoint. And that's not the tool related on big data. And actually, PowerPoint is not the tool either of digitalization. Both big data and digitalization means work, and you have to do something else than PowerPoint. Through PowerPoint, you cannot analyze data, and actually, it's impossible to analyze 1 terabit of data by using PowerPoint. Even in digital world, you cannot do digitalization through PowerPoint because it's almost impossible to change your working process by using PowerPoint. But yes, PowerPoint is a wonderful tool to make presentation like that, but not working on big data. And that's true. Big data is not an asset. Many of you might heard, or many of us might heard, the most beautiful slogan, I think currently, that big data is an asset. No, it's not an asset. Think about amount of data that no one can understand. No one can understand. You can take a phone book, read it through, and try to make some conversion related on, or try to find the patterns from old. Yes, I'm the fixed line generation, so I know what is the phone book. It's a huge catalog, names and numbers and addresses. But you don't understand. You cannot create or understand patterns from that book. And big data is similar. It's not an asset? Most of the cases, and if you have to make decision, the simple answer, yes or no, should I choose A or B, and most of the cases, what is the price, is good enough. But big data, actually, the huge amount of data, billions of tons or kilobytes or everything, don't give you that answer without. And this is the best part of PowerPoint. You can make those animation. And the new 365, you have a lot of new animation. But you have to have methodology, you have to have tools, and what you have to have actually not the data science, but the data scientist. The guy who understands, can use big data. And this is the biggest thing. You have to have that guy who rolled up his or her sleeves, put her hands on the mud and start doing, and most of the casing start programming. Yes, the big data tools is developing, and one day you might have libraries, you might have a visualization tools, maybe one day even I can do something, or I can dig into that data and get something out of it without PowerPoint, but with those tools. But currently, you have to have tools, you have to have methodology, and that means that you have to have that guy or girl. And this is a serious thing, because most of the cases we start doing PowerPoints, and then we have a governance model, but we don't get anything out of big data. So we say that, yes, big data is a great asset. And of course, IoT. It generates a lot of more data. And if you don't have that data scientist and you don't dig in the data, why on earth you want to collect more that data? That's stupid. It costs you. You have to have space to storage that data. Think about, you have the white part of phone book and a phone catalog, and then yellow and then purple. Yes, fantastic, I can read through 200,000 pages of and the data itself. Actually, unfortunately, many of cases we're talking about data, and we really forgot what is happening related on the application side. Currently, and related on that constant connectivity, which is happening all the time. Moore's law is still valid, and soon we have 2 billion connected devices, 2 billion connected people here in Earth, and we interact all the times. I think many of you has interacting right now, because I think I'm not the most interesting presenter related on big data, but yes, tweeting, Facebook, maybe email, chatting, everything like that. And all the time, something happen in and on those applications. By sending those mails to the social media learns something about you. And what is happening in the natural language? Google launched the Alanko, quite interesting thing. You have messaging chatbot that actually do the message for you, for your sake. You don't have to interact in real life anymore, because your virtual assistant help you. This natural language means that we have a great opportunity to understand a huge amount of unstructured data related on the medical records, related on social media, related on contact center, related on almost everything. And combine that what is happening in the world of machine and deep learning. At the same time, somebody or some instant is learning something about you, understanding what are you writing or messaging, and there is the world of big data and the applications that it's building above of big data. I show you a few examples. This is the easy one. Because Facebook slideshow, it's fantastic to make a slideshow about your personal life and all the shiny and glitter thing. I think in the Facebook world, every relationship is more than great, and we have some kind of dream come true. But yes, me and my beloved wife Hanna, we have been friends. I get the announce from Facebook last month that we have been friends not already 9 years. So we have to celebrate, and Facebook had made that slideshow for us. And fantastic. There is a picture, and it's a before, and then it's a after. And I think where is our baby boy? Because actually he is still existing, and most of the pictures are me and Daniel. But yes, so I changed the place of photos. So the after photo is before and that, because it's a little bit weird that okay, before and then without child. And the other one, I think my wife is not very proud of that, but yes, the photos. Actually, last evening when I designed this presentation, I finally noticed that in my iPhone I have a great application that photos who actually recognize the pictures, who is in the pictures, and that was wonderful. So I start tagging people, and me. And this is one of my colleagues. We're celebrating the huge launch of actually the Posti brand new, renewal thing 2 years ago, and we visit in Atheneum and having this small drawing lesson. It was funny to try to draw your colleague. And it's interesting that someone has drawn my colleague and the final art. What is this collectible piece of art? This face recognition. Understand this is the same person, but of course it can make wrong. This is. The left one, it's my very dearest friend of mine. We do a little bit boating on the summertime, and he's drinking Captain Morgan, and the photos think that my wife and Timo is same person. I haven't told that to my wife and either Timo. So I try to summarize what I want to say, and this small thing that I want to share you, that actually the big data is really important topic, and we have to how can I say act really seriously upon big data. And what we have done in Posti's world, yes, we have done few slide decks. maybe 5, 6. Yes, we have asked advice from experts. What should we do? But then, and luckily leaning forward, we decide to get data scientists aboard, and then another, and then another. And then suddenly the magic starts happen. We start getting the best out of our data, understand more, and now we are more and more eager to understand what we can do and actually we can do. And my recommendation is all of you who are struggling in business life around or among big data, get professional help for you by getting data scientists abroad. Really, really, really. And if you don't get them, or if those guys or girls are really hard to find to open market, you might have a service provider or professional service provider who would help you. But stop making PowerPoints around big data, please. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks for Markku and Sami. Great introduction, and I think the level is really high. High for me to, let's say, try to tell that how to make all this happen. But I like it, and I think that in Solita we like this kind of challenge, and today I would say that customers are very well aware of what's happening, but and they are really challenging us, and now the big challenge is that how we can work with this issue together. What's our role in it, and of course we can't do everything. We can help our customers, but still it's a cooperation. Yeah, my name is Joni Ojamäki, and yeah, I come from Solita, and Solita is digital business consulting and a services company. Currently we employ almost 500 people, and yeah, we are the travel guides. We try to be the travel guides, and we work with the data a lot. I'm a director for analytics, so big data is close to my heart, and it's also a way to, let's say, make some value to our customers, and of course for us it means business as well as for our customers. And in this presentation I also try to tell that how to make business with data, because I would say that's still the most important issue that how to capitalize it. Coming back to our think tank research, we had this kind of a group of big Finnish influencers from different customers and also our people, thinking about that what's happening in IoT, and the big thing is that the challenge and let's say that the key to be successful in this whole big data or data business is that we understand the value. As Sami told, that it's not an asset, but still we need to understand its value, because that's the only way to start working with that data. And And especially when we talk about how to make it in real life, we have to work it and we have to start to use it. So understanding and using the data, that's the brief whole thing. Still we see that there are many companies are struggling with how to start with this. We have the data, data is everywhere, but how we will start to work with that. And actually what has changed, because I have worked with data since 2005 and I have been working as a business controller and I have always worked with data. But what has happened now? Because suddenly it's a big issue. In future, everyone will serve. So it means that all of the companies start to build new services for their customers. It's no more only the product. You are building an excellent product, you have to build also the service. But what does this kind of approach mean for us? I think everyone knows business model canvas, and the key point here is that if you think about the history in our role working with the customers, we were the partner for the customer. And when I worked with the data, when I was a business controller, I needed a consultant to help me to build reports. That was actually the partnership. But if you think about nowadays and that the company wants to build new services, so what do we have to understand? Actually, we have to understand the whole business model. It's not doing things so that the customer give us a specification that let's do this kind of report. No, more and more the question is, what should we do? We have data, how to utilize it in our processes. It's a really big question. And behind that question is willingness to develop business and make some new business. That's the issue behind all the question. And if you think about the data business, it's not anymore that we are trying to find how to save costs. That's not an issue. Of course, that's an issue. Always it's an issue. But more and more, the data is used to create more revenue. And that should be the target, of course. Grow. Target is to grow. For us, it means that we need different kind of services. It's not only that we have data scientists. So that's one thing we have, but it's not enough. We need to have ideas, what to do with the data, how to start, with what kind of architecture, what kind of solutions, what kind of teams, what kind of project methods, and so on. These kind of issues. How to implement those solutions. And there is a big change. Nowadays, you have time, maybe a few days or a couple of weeks, to show something, to make it happen. In history, we could spend easily 6 months, 1 year to build data warehouses and build some reports. That was easy. But you have to show results because we are doing new services. And also, it's not that we do the service, we have to improve it all the time. We have to learn from the data. When we, for example, build a new web shop, So we have to start to collect the data together with the customers. We have to understand the data. We have to improve the solution. So for us it means that we have to have a huge bag of end-to-end services and expertise. I will focus on 4 things in how to enable the data business. One thing is expertise. As Sami told, we will need those great experts to make this happen. Second thing is architecture. With old kind of architectures, it's not anymore possible to create new kind of services, data-driven services. Then we need to test, we need to try, we need to build a culture of experimentation so that, and we need to allow also some mistakes when we do things. And then also we need to measure and measure more to learn. And then really big thing is change management. So when we are doing things with the data, it always has some kind of impact to the daily life, the daily work. It means that for someone it means that your work is changing. For someone it means that your work is no longer existing in the future. These are really big issues, and that's why I think that's one thing that needs more focus in the future. Expertise. In history, the gut feeling was quite good expertise. Make some decisions that it feels like we are going to that direction. And it was possible because the behavior in the business was quite stable. But nowadays it's clear that the gut feeling is not always the answer anymore. But what does it mean for the people? You have to step out from the comfort zone because the world is changing. How? Before, comfort zone, building reports for the management to make some decisions. And what's the expectation now? Build new business, and it's huge difference between these. And also one thing is that if you think about all these services which we are building, new kind of ways to utilize data in the business, the user is always in the center and the customer is always in the center. So if I think about the past, that we are building some reports in the finance department, I made the decisions that how it looked like. But I didn't care about who is going to use it, because only thing that mattered was that the numbers are right. That was the only thing. But nowadays, the data is part of your daily life, and the people using that data is growing rapidly, and it has to be very well planned and designed that it's part of your life. It's like your phones. Do you want to use applications that are hard to use? I guess no. How about in the business? Do you want to use numbers that are hard to find or hard to read? So it's quite clear that it's a thing that needs to be addressed. So for us, this is actually picked up from our one recruitment advertise. So it's these kind of things actually is needed, and it's a huge bag of skills. And as Sami said, that it's not. We don't want to find unicorns that are saving the world, but this the thing. It's needed, and to do these kind of solutions, and the analytics currently is going to the direction that we need more and more programming skills, as well as of course data science skills, and it's a really big change, because before working with traditional BI solutions and data warehouse ETL tools and so on, so it's totally a different world. So that's a big challenge for us. But also one thing is that more and more we need this kind of multi-talent teams. So it's if I think about that, how to build quickly those kind of solutions and services with customers. So doing that in an agile way needs multi-talents to discuss with each other, and that's one goal we are trying to build now. Then other thing, architecture, and a couple of big words there: flexibility and scalability. So we are starting to do these kind of solutions always so that if you want to test first, you need to build small solution first. And then if I think about the old, like Markku said, that before it was like really limiting that if to do something you need to invest a lot to build that kind of infrastructure that makes it possible to do that thing. And nowadays it's really easy. You pay as you go. But you need the flexibility, but of course also the scalability, because we are doing solutions that maybe scale up for the use of whole enterprise, new customers. So we have to think about that also. So it's clear that the newer way of doing business needs a new kind of architecture, and that's of course for us it's a good thing, because that's something we are good at, building these kind of architectures together with our customers. The big thing is that at the same time the value as well as the definition of the product is changing a lot. So before we could say that this is the product, this machine that you can change the slides, or but can I buy this as a service? I don't know. Maybe if I pay something to Sami, so you can come to change this. But just a simple example. I don't know if there is any business case in this, but people are lazy. They want to have everything as a service. I would like to have a food as a service, because it's so terrible to go to the shop after hard work day and buy these things. But still, it's quite hard to pick up all those items from the web shop and so on. Maybe some kind of more professional service. But still, the product is it's more like it exists in the cloud, and that's something that needs to be taken care of when we are planning these architectures. Then, as I mentioned before, that the way of doing things is changing rapidly, and nowadays there are no big investments in that scale anymore. That they said, okay, let's put a couple of millions that we first build up the enterprise data warehouse and connections and the data, and then we start to build some reports. That's not the way we are doing things anymore. Actually, the budgets are really much smaller, but the expectations are high. And we have to deliver those results quite quickly because at the same time the business is changing rapidly, but at the same time also we need to buy the next phase. So when we show something, we can move forward and do the next thing, and this keeps the business alive and hold the doing alive. But if I think about all this chain, that how what kind of things we have to do, so we have to pick up the data from the sources, we have to do something magic for that, and then connect it to the services. And all this thing should be done in a couple of weeks. So it's a great challenge. Fast, that's the key word. Then the culture. Can we fail? Can customers fail? Well, I think that's something that we need to allow, because there are no results without trying. And I think that in most cases the results are unknown. We have a huge bag of data, we have the expertise, we have everything ready, we have even the understanding what we could do with the data. Maybe predict some kind of a customer behavior. For example, in season business, we would like to predict some kind of factors there and so on. But actually, what do we find? We don't know. We have some kind of expectations and maybe some kind of ideas, but we don't know that. So then it's really hard to say to the management, if we think about the management systems in the companies, that we have investments and we try to say that, okay, this is the ROI for the investment. So we don't know the results, but we should tell what's the payback. And that's a really hard combination. And also leading to the, let's say, the way of working that we do it in small pieces, because then it's, you can manage the risk. It's clear that you can't put 2 million investments and then start to think about, okay, let's find something out. That's not possible. But if you put a couple of 10,000 or whatever, but then you have the smaller case and then you maybe can handle the expectation also better. And then a big thing that whole this thing is a little bit breaking the functions inside the company. So before it was quite clear that there was IT and the finance and the business and marketing and sales and so on. But now this kind of way to work is we really need the glue between these functions, and I think that's also one of our roles with the customers, that we try to discuss with all parties and try to be the glue between these parties. Building a new service, it's not only an IT issue, it's not only a business issue, it's not only a R&D issue, it's a combination of these. We need a good architecture to enable this development. We need, of course, business to tell us what's the business and what's the case here and what are our targets. And then maybe R&D to build up this kind of a process how we develop new kind of products and services. Then agility in changing business cases. Those are changing all the time. We have some examples that we get new business case today and the results should be delivered in 2 days. Yes, those are really small things, but we have to be able to respond very quickly. And that means that we need to have those multi-talent teams. We need to little bit bend typical processes, also in our way of working, also with the customer, so that let's think about, let's start to work with some business case, and we need some connections to the cloud, and we need to have some kind of approvals from the IT that now you can access to that data and so on. So that need to happen quite quickly. And if the process is planned to serve the old way of working, we have a problem. And then the expectation management. So one thing is that it's quite clear nowadays that management in the companies are quite well aware of what's happening, and they have really good visions and the strategies. But then at the same time, how we can communicate that what we can actually do between this short time frame, and that's everyday discussion that we can't build new services for thousands of people in 2 days. That's clear. But we maybe understand some new things that are leading us towards that target. Yes, and again, as Sami said, you have to do something. So there are no results if you don't change the daily life. A couple of examples in our projects that we have profiled customers to optimize interaction in all channels. We have developed some new solution services for the customers based on the data collected. And then also have done this kind of traditional performance management related to, for example, this sales network optimization, and they leading that operations. But in all these cases, the question is about changing the business or changing the way to manage the business. So to come back this, no results without the change. We can have the data, we can have the data science on top of that, we have all the nice phenomena out of there, we have nice new services, whatever, but what will change? So to do this, we have to do something differently in the companies. And now the question is what we can do for it, because this is something that, of course, customer is leading their company, but what we can do, of course, we need to have common goals. It's really important also the way to think about the business, and more the question is not only that what are the customers' targets, it's more and more what are the customers' needs. If we think about that, then we are thinking in the same way with the customer. Then, of course, the way to work, share the information, we need to be more open, really good feedback is needed, flexibility, able to tend a little bit those processes, and especially, again, these visible and measured results. This one case we had, and I think it's quite well put in one sentence, that we managed to get the first online services utilizing analytics in production very quickly. And I think that's something we are trying to do, because we don't know what's happening in the future. We don't know what we can do with the data. I think we will find that day by day, using the technology and using the data science people and everything, but the main thing is that we can deliver things quickly in the production so that customers get new services and we can start to capitalize the data. That's the thing. But I think that if I would put this all together in the final sentence, and I think it's quite hard target, but let's try it. In the end, the question is about the people. Even the issue is now the big data and the technology and everything, that and our role, that how we can help the customer and so on. But in the end, why it's question about the people? Because to do things in a new way, I have to do things in a new way. So if I want to make this kind of presentation next time in a better way, so maybe I need to get some feedback from you, maybe train a little bit more, maybe do some PowerPoints again, maybe throw PowerPoints away and start to use the data. I don't know, but I have to do things differently. And this is the same thing in all these companies. And this is the huge, in the end, this is a huge leadership challenge, I would say. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joni, Sami, and Markku, for your interesting and dynamic presentations. It's almost overwhelming, the information one can get in a single Tuesday evening. I hope you're all up for some discussion. I think we have some interesting questions here in the audience. I guess you can share one microphone and I'll share the other with the audience.
Hello, my name is Salo. I'd be interesting to hear about, as we have now the Posti case here on stage, what is Posti now, what are the problems or challenges Posti is trying to solve using big data and data scientists? Can you give us some concrete examples?
I think the easiest case related, of course, to the performance optimization and route optimization, which is the huge advantage, and Posti have done this actually a long time. But of course, we have had also a heavy traffic in our online services. We have a huge amount of customer interaction point through the physical and digital network. This is one of our development areas. And of course, what is related on all the tracking data what we are collecting. But actually, we do that to help our customers, also the end users. The world is going more and more toward the platform business, and we know that the platform is the value of platform is related on the amount of data interaction inside the platform. So in Posti's core is of course the performance optimization, but on the other hand, and doing the digital jump, understanding better the customer interaction point. And this is the based on the huge amount of data that we have.
Anybody else?
Have you found any particular methods to be especially useful in this sort of analysis, like maybe neural nets or something like that?
I think I'm heading this to Markku, but my point of view, it's all about people because the technology stacks, the tools are a little bit various related on the person. But I think the best thing about those experts, those data scientists, that most of the case they have the best tools, the best method. Actually with them, it's like, how can I say, you have a full service when you hire data scientist. You get everything on board at the same time. But yes, you can say about it. Of course, the tools are and technology is developing so fast currently. But yes, you can say a little bit about that.
Yes. Okay.
I only know the names of the technology.
Yeah, I won't go into those details anyway. It's I would say that following up on Sami, that in Posti we're not really on that maturity level with data science that we would actually be implementing something like completely unique in the world. We wouldn't be creating algorithms that have never existed yet. Yes, exactly. But I would say that our data struggles, big data struggles, are more into unifying the data, getting the different data sources to the same granularity size, understanding the quality of different data sources, trustworthiness of data sources, and opening up the data for our data scientists, analysts, anyone in the organization for more benefits for the company. So we're in the sort of, let's say, early phases of the data-driven journey as a company. Like Sami mentioned, most benefits are from the optimization of our routes, optimization of our workforce, predicting how many people we need on certain specific factory at certain time, and so forth. So that's where we're pretty good, and where we have invested a lot in the past. But when talking about new innovation out of data, I think that's something that will happen. It's happening in the next couple of years, once we get the sort of foundation to the level where the innovation can actually bloom. So then maybe we can go back to the details with you in 2018 or something like that.
So maybe for an outsider, Posti might be kind of a traditional sort of business, and this business is hit by the data, big data. Has been mentioned that new services might be on the way for the future. Could you please give me some example what sort of new services Posti guys are thinking about for the future?
It's a little bit, how can I say, those are the top secrets. But no. So you might notice that, of course, that we are moving to serving people also on other way than traditional delivering to mail. Maybe we get something back at the same time. Maybe we are monitoring your yard, doing the snowing thing. Maybe there is a lot of opportunity if you have had this kind of stuff that we have, and what we can do. Someone said that many startups are ready to kill for that advantage that you visit every single door every single day here in Finland. And of course we can build a lot of based on that advantage. And of course this operation produce a huge amount of data. But of course, and I think this is the data is like flowing. You same time you produce data and you use data, and during that flow the data may enrich based on the different sources. That is one of the great and very interesting thing what is happening. That it's not the one way, or it's not a two way. It's multiple ways, and it's flowing all the time. And of course there is autonomous cars and the automation going very fast, and of course we will take our opportunity to it also.
Thank you. I guess that was all the questions we had, so I will thank you again, and the meeting is adjourned, as they say.
Okay, thank you everybody.